Okay, so the 3.1 is to explain the uses of different forms of written communication in a healthcare setting. And then 3.2 is communicate information using appropriate written styles. Then you were going on to 3M1, that stands for the merit question. So use appropriate technology and supporting graphs, diagrams, and artwork to support your written communication. And then for the distinction section on this, the 3D1, you would evaluate examples of different forms of actual written communication found in healthcare settings. So I will go into quite a lot of detail tomorrow as to exactly what format I want you to do your work in and what is expected for you to be doing on those. Is that okay? Do we understand?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. So, on to communication skills for health and social care. So, learning outcome 3, be able to communicate information in writing. So for written communication, health services need to keep good written records of the care that are given to patients and their clients for 3 main reasons. The first reason is to make sure that the care and treatment can continue to be given safely, no matter which staff are on duty. So this can be 25 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it doesn't matter if Yvonne was treating a patient first. When Chidi comes over 12 hours later, he knows that Yvonne has given an insulin injection. So he knows at what time he can give it and what's the appropriate step to take next. So the second reason is to record the care that has been given to the patient and client. That's just to keep good records. So make sure you mark down what has been given, what you've been doing. And the third step that they say is to make sure there's an accurate record to be used as evidence when there's a complaint from a patient. So about what care they received. This is just covering your own back. So you, in a busy day, if you're, say, working in an A&E, you might have seen 20, 30, 50 patients. So you're not going to remember exactly what was given to each one. So this record keeping will help you keep track of exactly what has been done. Is that okay so far?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So the principles of the written communication that you should use is to write as near as possible to the time you've delivered the care. So if you've done it now, if you just gave an injection right now, you need to write as soon as you're finished doing that, you need to note it down. Write simply and clearly. Write legibly, so try and write as neatly as you can. Insert the dates and the times as accurately as possible. Avoid giving personal opinions because it's not, at that time, you're just administering medicine or care. It's not your job to tell them anything else besides that at that time. So don't write anything judgmental or anything that might seem like you're being a bit personal to them, you're abusing them or insulting them. So just say exactly what's happened. So A, B, C happened. This is all I'm going to write. I'm not going to say, oh, this happened. I think this happened. Or maybe this could have happened. This is why she wasn't feeling well. So just keep it as factual as possible. So for 3.1, this is going to be one of your questions on your assessment. So explain the uses of different forms of written communication in health care setting. So when you have written communication, the forms are an important part of working with individuals in health and social care, and also the early year settings. So that could be a childcare centre, a playgroup, anything like that. So practitioners might be asked to write a care plan or a daily report about the care that is provided to an individual, and they might have to follow the instructions for the medical procedure that they've given to that person. So they also might take 6 minutes on a meeting, send an email. For example, there's been times where I've had to administer eye drops to my students who are below a certain age or who are vulnerable. So I've had to, as soon as I've done that, I've had to write down how many drops I gave, how much medicine is remaining within their eye drops, and at what time I gave it. You also need to make sure that health services need to keep good written records of what care has been given to their patients. And once again, they're recapping what we just spoke about, just to make sure that care and treatment can continue safely so that anyone on duty knows what was given to them to that day, to record the care that has been given to the patient, and to make sure there's an accurate record so it can be used as evidence. So, according to the Royal College of Nursing, these are the principles that written communication should follow. So, once again, it's another recap. We've looked at some of this already. So, you need to write as near as possible to the time you delivered the care. You'll notice to keep on saying this because it's really important. So, you need to write simply and clearly. Make sure it's neat handwriting and that there's no mistakes if you're typing it in. Put the dates and times in. Don't give personal opinions and don't give any judgments or be abusive or insulting towards your patient or client or the relative. And you also need to remember that as part of a healthcare team, you have the responsibility to make sure that anything you write about a patient or client, or that any other person who writes it, any other staff member, that it's confidential, that it's not passed on while you're sitting at lunchtime and saying, oh, do you know this patient A, they always do this, I had to give them, I had to clean this, or I had to do that. You have to just keep as keep it confidential as possible. So don't be talking to anybody else that does not need to know the information. Are we okay on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Carry on.
So we need to have good writing skills, and these will actually create a good impression. If I'm going to be honest, my handwriting is not the best. When I sit down, it can be very illegible if I'm trying to rush. So I have to take a lot of time to make it neat and clear. So this one I need to pay attention to as well. So you've got to make sure that how the text is presented. So you're going to check what typeface you're using, what font size, is it clear, is it easy to look out? So you don't want to start putting fancy italics or fancy fonts in. Just keep it as simple and clear that everybody can understand it. So don't start making it all curly and everything. Make sure that you've got correct grammar, punctuation and spelling, because if you're reading something that I've written and it doesn't make sense grammatically, you're going to say, oh, this person doesn't understand what she's talking about. How can she give them care? So you just need to take a little time and make sure that you've got the correct spellings, that you've got your commas and your full stops in the right place, and it'll be fine. So the style of the writing used can either be formal or informal, and it depends on different situations what sort of style you're going to use. So if you're filling out a report, it's going to be formal style of writing. If you're just filling out a little a medicine report, prescription sheet to say that this is the time I've given, that's going to be more informal. So also the language that is used. So use the current terminology that is used in health and social care so that it's easy to understand. Don't use any other jargon. Are we okay with understanding what jargon means?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So just to make sure that everything is understood very clearly. Okay, and specialist communication. So practitioners that work in health and social care and early years actually have to interact with different individuals who have a different range of needs. There's quite a diverse range of needs out there. So knowledge of specialist communications and how to use these may at times be required to enable effective interactions. For example, Braille. So Braille is used by people who are visually impaired or blind. They can't read anything in print. So this Braille actually helps them to read and gain independence. So are we familiar with how Braille is? What sort of format that is? Yeah. So just dots that they use by touch.
With the fingernails.
Yeah. And also what Braille has actually been adapted. So you can not just use it for reading and writing. It can be used for music and maths as well, which is fantastic. So it's giving a lot more independence to the users now. Okay, and sign language. So the most common form of sign language that is used in Britain is British Sign Language, so we can shorten it to BSL. It's recognised by the UK government as an official language. They recognised this in March 2003, and it uses a different form of grammar and sentence structure than we do to speaking. So sign language is also used by individuals who are deaf or hearing impaired, and it's a form of communication that you can use your hands, your facial expressions, and your body language. In what we see now, sign language has been incorporated into so many things. You might know children's programs, Mr. Tumble, where he'll do a lot of sign language to communicate, and he speaks and he's doing signing, so children learn from a very early age. Even in schools now, you can say hello. There's certain gestures that are just taught on a normal basis. Okay, so 3.2, we're going to communicate information using appropriate written styles and methods. So here, you're going to make use of one of the written styles and the methods. So you can either do a letter, an email, a formal report like a patient record, or an informal report like a prescription. There are some examples on Moodle of letters and emails which will help when you're working on this question, just how to format it and base it. So 3M1 is to use appropriate technology and supporting graphs, diagrams, and or artwork to support written communication. So you're going to need to use one of the softwares to enhance communication using images, graphs, and tables. So all that means is with the work that you're writing down here, add supporting images. So put in a graph, put in a table, find an image that is corresponding with what you've written and add that in. So you could use an ECG, an image of an ECG, an MRI scan, or an X-ray report, or even a prescription, anything. The opportunities are endless. So for 3D1, we're going to evaluate examples of different forms of actual written communication found in healthcare settings. So you're going to need to enhance communication and written methods. So for example, for this question, if you've added in a patient record or an image, you actually need to talk about them as well. So add in a few sentences and say, this image shows this, that, and give the information exactly what it is that you're showing here. And record keeping, this is important in so many different organizations, education, health and social care, business. Record keeping is a very big thing everywhere. So there are many reasons for keeping records in healthcare, but two stand out above all of the others. So you've got to compile a complete record of the patient's journey throughout the services. So from start to finish, there needs to be a full record from them getting taken into wherever they need to go or to being discharged. They need to be able to enable continuity of care for the patient and client within services. So either if the patient has started off, say for example in the hospital, they might have been put into palliative care, they might need to go into a care home. So all the records need to be in good stead so that everybody knows the all factors of what this patient has gone through. So the records that we keep in healthcare need to be clear, accurate, honest, and timely. So they should be written as close to the time as what the events occur. Is that okay? I know I'm doing a lot of talking today. And we're almost onto the bottom here. And then we also go on to different means of record keeping that are used in health and care settings. So some workplaces can use handwritten records, others can be computer-based, or some will do a bit of both. So you'll actually need to just go with whatever it is. Wherever you end up working or wherever you're working now, you need to comply with what their record-keeping process is. So either it can be handwritten or electronic, and you need to be able to store it in the way that they need you to keep it. So you need to know how to use information systems and tools in your workplace. You need to be able to protect Do not share with anyone any password smart cards which are given to you to enable you to access the systems, and then also to make sure written records are not left in public places where unauthorized people might see them, or any other electronic system which is protected before you sign out. So it just means that when you're done, don't pass your share, don't share your passwords, don't leave your computer on, make sure it's always turned off, and then you're covered in that means. So on this, it's just the references again. You click on some of these links and they'll take you on some of the things that we've talked about. I actually wanted to share with you something over here. Show you. Now, if you go into Moodle, I'll show you exactly where it is. On the main page, once you go into health and social care, there is, it's logged, no, it hasn't logged yet. There's something called Command Verbs Explained. So if you go into there, this is something that one of our other tutors has created, and it's fantastic. Because you might see on some questions it says it describe, some will say analyze, some will say evaluate. So we need to be clear on exactly what these command verbs, so we call these command verbs over here, what they actually mean. Because I know sometimes questions can be so similar. One will say define the meaning of communication, another will say evaluate the meaning of communication, evaluate the different models. So it just goes, so for example, analyze is to break an issue into parts and make arguments supporting it or against it. And then to evaluate is to give your verdict to what a statement or findings are and find out if you agree with them or disagree with them. So just, it might be, if you have a few minutes, have a look at this. Seriously, it's a fantastic little document that you can go on to. So are we okay for today? Would you able to hear me clearly? Was that clear, or you have to go over anything again?
Okay.
Fantastic. So once again, we're going to have all of this into this PDF is in Moodle also. So have a look at it, and then tomorrow, we're on at 5 o'clock. I'll go through very clearly exactly what we're going to be doing in the assignment. So we'll break it down and we'll talk about it. Any questions that you've got, anything you want to ask, we can go through that tomorrow. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to finish the recording on this now.